All right, today we're going to dive into a story about a leader who, I mean, he seemingly had it all and then just lost everything. We're talking about a crisis so deep it pushed him right to the brink of being stoned by his own men. This is a story of a comeback that, honestly, it redefines what it means to lead. So let me ask you this. Have you ever had a plan? One you were so sure was brilliant, only to watch it just completely blow up in your face? Yeah, that feeling, that moment when you're just standing there in the wreckage of your own good idea, well, that's exactly where our story kicks off today. And it's a crisis that's going to test the very soul of a leader. So you gotta wonder, right? How did a leader like David get himself into such a total mess? Well, it's really crucial to understand the insane pressure he was under. See, this wasn't a mistake that came from arrogance or anything like that. It was born from sheer bone-deep exhaustion. The kind of burnout that, frankly, a lot of leaders can probably relate to today. Okay, so here's the super quick backstory. David, he's the chosen next king. But the guy who's currently king, Saul, wants him dead. So for years, David's been a fugitive. He's living in caves, constantly on the run. He is just wiped out, completely exhausted, and feels totally abandoned. And in a moment of just pure desperation, David, he stops relying on the promises that got him this far. Instead, he starts relying on his own cleverness. And he makes a decision that's, well, it's strategic, sure, but it's also spiritually bankrupt. He joins the enemy. He figures, hey, if I can't beat him, maybe I can find some safety among them. This whole plan, it's born from fear, not from faith. And this quote here from Reynolds Showers, it just perfectly captures the core problem. It says, quite frequently, man's invention of ingenious devices or programs to improve his lot would boomerang. And that's exactly it. David's plan seems so clever on the surface, right? But our own cleverness, when it's not guided by a deeper wisdom, it so often backfires. It ends up creating way bigger problems than the ones we were trying to solve. And oh boy, David is about to learn that lesson the hard way. And this is where things go from bad to just absolutely catastrophic. David's clever little plan to join the Philistines, yeah, it backfires big time. They don't trust him, so they just send him packing. So as he and his men are heading back home to their town, Ziklag, they're probably just thinking about getting some rest, finding refuge. But what they find instead, it's literally their worst nightmare. Just try to imagine the scene. These guys have been marching for 3 straight days. They're exhausted, and they finally get close enough to see smoke on the horizon. Their home, Ziklag, the one place of refuge they had in the entire world, is nothing but smoldering ruins. The very foundation of their lives has been just literally burned to the ground. And then the true horror sets in, because it's not just their stuff that's gone, it's their families. Every single wife, every son, every daughter, gone, dragged away by some ruthless raiding party. Can you even imagine the silence in that destroyed city? It must have been just deafening. The emotional devastation here is just staggering. These are battle-hardened warriors, right? These are men who have faced the absolute worst of combat. And yet, here they are, completely and utterly broken, weeping so hard they literally have no physical strength left to even cry anymore. And just when you think it cannot possibly get any worse, it does. His own men, in all their grief and anger, they turn on him. Suddenly, he's not just a failed leader, he's the target of all their rage. It was his plan that led to all of this. He's lost his home, his family, and now the loyalty of his own people. This right here is rock bottom. So what do you do? What do you do when you've hit rock bottom? Everything is gone. Everyone is against you. It's in this moment of absolute total darkness, that the entire story pivots on a single powerful action. This is it. This is the turning point. After all those years of relying on his own strength, his own plans, his own cleverness, David finally just stops. And in his absolute weakest moment, he doesn't look inward for some strength he knows he doesn't have. He looks upward. Drawing strength from the Lord wasn't just some vague feeling. It was an active choice. David takes 2 really critical steps here. First, he actually asks for direction. No more clever plans, just a simple, should I pursue? Will I overtake them? And second, he submits to God's wisdom. He waits for the answer instead of just making up his own new plan. That right there, that's the essence of humility. Okay, So let's see what happens when David makes this massive shift from self-reliance to God-reliance. It's like he's got a new commander-in-chief. And the results? Well, they're about to be dramatically different. And notice how clear the instructions are. This isn't some vague maybe or you could try. It's a direct command with a concrete promise. Pursue, for you will certainly overtake them and carry out a rescue. I mean, wow. That is the kind of certainty David was completely lacking when he was just running on fumes. And then we get to see how this new plan actually unfolds, and it's amazing. They find this random guy, an Egyptian servant who had been left for dead by the Amalekites. On the surface, it seems like a complete and total coincidence, right? But this one, quote-unquote, accidental encounter, it turns out to be the key to everything. This guy knows exactly where the enemy is camped, and he leads David's men right to them. And the result? Total victory. I'm not talking about a partial recovery. We're talking a 100% restoration. David retrieved everything. There was nothing missing, small or great. Every person, every single item, everything they had lost was brought back. The outcome of this new, guided plan wasn't just good, it was perfect and complete. But the story doesn't just end with the victory. See, the true test of David's transformation comes in how he leads after the battle. That internal change he went through now has to become external action. And sure enough, a conflict arises immediately. Some of the men, these evil and worthless guys, they slip right back into that selfish mindset. They say that the 200 men who were too exhausted to fight, the ones who stayed behind with the equipment, should get nothing but their families back. But David, who is now operating under a completely new principle, he shuts that down fast, and he introduces a pretty radical idea of fairness. And with this decree, he says, the portion of the one who went down into the battle will be the same as the portion of the one who remained with the equipment. Let their portions be the same. With this, David actually establishes a new law in Israel. He recognizes that this victory, it wasn't won by their strength alone. It was a gift. And because of that, everyone who was part of the community gets to share in that gift equally. Now that is true leadership. That's fairness and generosity in action. So what can we pull from this incredible ancient story for our lives today? What's the bottom line here for facing our own moments of total failure? Well, this crisis absolutely forged David into the leader he was always meant to be. Out of the ashes, he showed empathy, faith, decisiveness, kindness, persistence, integrity, fairness, generosity. I mean, look at this list. These aren't just some dusty old virtues. They are the absolute hallmarks of great leadership in any age. Ultimately, the big lesson is this. David's best-laid plan, the one he cooked up himself, led to total disaster. But when he finally let go of control and trusted in a higher power to lead, the result was a restoration that was so much more than he could have ever hoped for, especially when he was standing in the ashes of his life. And that really just leaves us with a final question to think about. Our culture, it's always telling us to hustle harder, to take charge, to be the master of our own destiny. But this story, it suggests that maybe, just maybe, true life and peace aren't found in grabbing the controls tighter, but in having the courage to finally let them go.